Right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley. Oh, you may notice the voice is a bit hoarse today.
Bit red as well.
Yeah, a bit red as well. Yeah, got cooked in the sun. But we watched the amazing 2-1 win at home to Hull.
Yeah.
Finally, after weeks and weeks of desperately trying to get it, we got it over the line in style.
Well, we did it the Charlton way, to be fair, didn't we? I mean, we said we knew we needed a point. And it's ironic that we go and score 2 worldies and win the game 2-1 and get the 3 points. So it's like I said, it's the Charlton way, really. Like, keep you waiting and then get it over the line.
And we had such an argument over performance and points, and
Yeah.
finally we just managed to get it out of the bag with both.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely way to do it, because I think scraping it would have. I didn't care how it came.
I don't think
end,
anyone did, to be fair.
It was a performance to be incredibly proud of, and I think one that probably sums up our season really well, in regards to the fact that even when it's been tough times, we've managed to pull it out the bag.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that in so many occasions. Even that kind of 7-point week, the start of the season, everything just seems to be, when we have needed character, which definitely at times we've dropped off this season, we have always managed to kind of turn it round when it matters most. And I thought it was the perfect summary.
Well, it's the final home game in the season, so it's that sort of sign-off, isn't it? You've got obviously at the end of the game, you've got like the Player of the Year presentations, all that stuff, but Jones being able to give that speech at the end, like being able to actually sign the season off on a high at the Valley, and then now we can all look forward to a summer of potential good signings, we're hoping, and then on top of that, then we can really look forward to a new season where it's another roller coaster, isn't it? But we'll see what happens. But just to be back in the Championship, consolidate your position, because it's so easy these days, especially with the golfing sort of wage bills and teams coming down from the Prem and all that stuff, to actually just drop straight back down. And we did it with Bowyer, didn't we? And I know he had a really tough time of it, to be fair, because it was COVID year. And all that stuff,
it was COVID year. Ownership was very
it was
questionable. But I think the other thing is, it's the first time since Chris Powell that we've actually stayed up, albeit the Bowyer season.
But it also it allows us to build now. So like you've now got that foothold in the league. Now we invested quite heavily in the summer. A lot of our fans were quite surprised at how much we put into the squad actually. But now it's like, okay, what are these owners going to really? Are they going to want to really push it on? And I know Nathan Jones really does want that. He wants investment so that he can really build a really strong squad. So yeah, it gives us that opportunity to do that, and I think it's priceless, really. And like for the fans as well, seeing high-level football at the Valley, it's we've waited long enough, spent so many years in League One. It's like, okay, let's finally cement our place in the Championship.
Well, and I think it was a summer where I think every Charlton fan was surprised at how much money we spent. But when you actually look at it, we spent that amount of money. But when you look at the squad, it was topping up from such a consolidated League One squad that it brought us to just about competitive in the Championship. And I actually think on paper, when you look at it, squad by squad, team by team, if it wasn't for Sheffield Wednesday's kind of woes, it probably was on paper the weakest squad in the league.
We're a bottom 3 squad on paper, I think. So, and then all that does as well is just highlights what an amazing job Nathan Jones has actually done. Because I know we can moan as fans of the style of play at times and the sort of individuals that have let us down a little bit in terms of quality. But what Nathan Jones does instill is a never say die sort of attitude, gets the most out of the players he's got, and to keep us up this season is no mean feat, because like we've just said, our squad probably is a bottom 3 squad. So he has actually massively achieved yet again, and it can't go unnoticed, because he gets a bit of flack when we're not playing well, but he gets results in the end.
And I think I learnt it from the League One season, and it was last season when we went up. And I was I wouldn't say quick, but I think especially when we got to that kind of Christmas period where it really dropped off, I jumped into kind of the Nathan Jones outwagon, which I sincerely regret. But I think with Nathan Jones, what you really have to do is kind of put your faith in the process rather than the moment.
Yeah.
And I think with him, if you actually look at it on paper, he's never let us down.
No.
As fans, he's never let the club down when it comes to the longer term of a whole season and where we're kind of going, albeit he will cause moments that do feel pretty perilous. And as I say, you do sometimes have to jump all in and go, do you know what, with everything he's done so far, and this season for me further consolidates it, is putting that faith in him to kind of get there. And yes, at times it's not pretty, but countless managers have tried to do it with us and have failed completely and utterly miserably beforehand.
And also, I don't think it needed to be pretty this season. All the MO was this year was stay in the league. And no matter how much we want to see more creative style of play, we want to see us bombing forward. Really, we need the players to be able to do that, and at the moment, we don't quite have that. So I'm happy to sit back and watch some defensive style football if it means we're going to stay in the league, and that's what's happened. So he's done what he's been asked to do, and now is the real time in the summer to really build, and then see if we can then start adapting our style of play and actually becoming more of an attacking threat, which comes with better players. So that's where we're at now.
Well, if Nathan Jones' history repeats itself, at Charlton he survived a relegation scrap and took us to promotion.
Yeah.
And I think with Luton, after his first season, where I think they stayed up on the final day of the season, he then took them to becoming a kind of playoff pushing side.
We'll be 100%. I'm confident we'll be a different animal. And he said it in his speech at the end, actually. We won't be in this position next season. He's adamant that with investment, with better squad, he will be able to push us on, and we won't be in a relegation battle next year.
Well, arguably lessons learned about the squad, who he can trust, who I think there are players this season that he may look at that, as much as I believe Nathan Jones does definitely dig his heels in and have favourites, I think he will have learnt a lot about the squad, and I think there's certain players that he may, off the back of this, be happy to kind of move on. But yeah, definitely, I think it will have kind of really, really hit home where he needs to invest and where he wants to put the squad. And I think you kind of started to see that in a lot of his interviews, especially towards the tail end. You could see there definitely was a disappointment in certain things, and I think a very much a vocal, for someone who has his cards quite close to his chest, I think quite a vocal side that as soon as we get this over the line, there's some hard decisions. And
he's not afraid to do that. Even when we came up from League One, he had to cull the squad a little bit, and some players that were pretty mainstays in the side actually ended up having to be moved on, because you can't be too sentimental, and I think he's good at that. He's good at sort of making sure he gets the right people in and having a good core in that squad that's able to sort of keep you in a position.
I think that for every manager who goes through that process, that is probably the most vital thing. And I remember, I think it was on one of the Charlton shows with Curbs on it. It was the best bit of advice he could give towards it, which is you just cannot be sentimental towards players. So hopefully that is what we'll see in the summer, and I'm sure it is.
Just a relief, though, isn't it? It's that relief, because we were cutting it really fine, and if we had have lost, which could have happened, we were just going down to the last day. Oxford actually tanked Sheffield Wednesday in the end. So
I know, I loved watching them tank them.
Yeah.
once we were sitting in the pub, pint in hand, knowing that they could not catch us.
It didn't matter, did it?
Every goal that went in just put a smile on my face, because it meant nothing. So,
but yeah, we finally sealed it, which, like I said, it's just that relief is epic, and yeah, great day.
Well, let's relive that day a little bit. So the game itself. Starting lineup wise, I thought it was kind of interesting one when that came out. I have to admit, when I saw Gillespie, that put a little bit of the fear of God in me. And he's a player who, look, I think in general terms we know he's probably playing above his level now. But the only thing I will say is
he can do a job.
And on days we have had many conversations where he's done a job. Yeah. I think on a consistent basis, and when he's having an off day, that's the concerning one. Obviously saw Fevrier coming in. And staying, I think he was on the
left wing back. I think
left wing back. Harry Clark back in on the right. Probably the most interesting one of it, and I don't think this season, if we have done it, we've only done it once, was the two centre attacking mids in Carey and Nibs behind Kelman, which I think we both saw, and it's probably the bit of it we were most excited about, because I think one of the things we've seen so much in recent weeks is our midfield just being non-existent. Yeah. And kind of having those two centre attacking mids sitting behind a Kelman, who probably then will bring out the best side of Kelman.
Yeah.
Definitely seemed the right thing, and I think a lot of Charlton fans would have been going into this game thinking that the default for Jones would be Dykes and maybe even Leeburn, and go really big boys up top. And I didn't feel like we did with that starting lineup.
No, and also, we've said how many times this year that we've relied too heavily on Carey to be the man to sort of be the creative player and drive the ball forward. But when you add Nibs in alongside him, you got two of those style of players who can both do the same thing. And actually, what I love about Nibs is he's physical. He's a big player, so he's able to throw his body around. He worked really hard, actually in that game. I was very impressed with him, considering he hasn't played much at all.
I think he was a player that was noticeably rusty on his technical side, but he worked really hard, put the yards in, and shows glimpses of the kind of player. And I think with him, this season's just been so unfortunate because we actually have a lot to thank him for this season. He's actually been part of some weirdly big moments considering the little game time he's had. But I have to admit he's a player that I'm really excited to see the future for, and especially next season.
He's a long-term sort of prospect, I think, for Charlton.
No, and I think he has some real good qualities that he can bring to that squad. And but a setup like this, I think let's go into that first half. It seemed to be a game that, as soon as we started, it felt quite positive. It felt Hull looked really
strong.
Hull looked really at sorts, I have to admit. I mean,
I think they were nervous, to be fair. And that was one thing that I said actually before the game, was although there's a lot of pressure on us, there was a lot of pressure on them as well because of the position they're in, chasing for that 6th place in the playoffs, and it showed actually. They looked nervous. They
held the ball with doing very little with it, and albeit it's not a surprise for any team to come to the Valley or even play Charlton in any capacity and be the team who hold possession better. We don't do that. But they did very little with it. A lot of crossfield balls that were just going straight out, or just very, very poor play. And we seemed to be at our best when it came to pressing. We seemed really up for it, which isn't something that we've said too often. And that first kind of 20 minutes led up to, in all honesty, the goal itself. But beforehand, we did see a glimpse of kind of what the goal brought, which was Kelman down the wing, having Egan on toast, crossing the ball in deflection back, and it came to Cody, who got a shot off. But it seemed like a warning sign that we were going to be at what we've been so critical of our counters not being effective. It just felt a little bit different.
Also playing Kelman in the role where he's most effective. Like, we've said this a lot, where Kelman is at his best when he's running off that last man. He's got the pace, and actually when he gets the ball at his feet, he's quite tricky, and he can actually beat his man or get, like you said, to the byline and cross the ball in. That's what happened for that first chance. And obviously, throughout the game, he was becoming a thorn in the side for their defence. Like, he was properly breaking the lines left, right, and centre, and actually having the two attacking mids, like we said, meant that he could push up the pitch and actually get on the last man. So, that was, like you said, a bit of a sort of eye opener in terms of where we were at, and we were creating chances. Which then obviously
what a thorn in their side he was, because the ball, and a brilliant ball across from Cody, who I thought noticeably in that central midfield, as I say, we've said it so many times. No Charlton fan, when we signed him, thought the role that he's ended up playing would be it. But I think the experience, and I think statistically, actually, what he's brought to us this season, when you look at the games he's been involved in versus the games he hasn't, it's been quite a stark difference.
Well, I think he brings that experience, like you said, he's got Premier League experience, but also he can bring a pass. Like, because he's obviously played at a high level, he's able to sort of be a bit more sort of cutting in terms of the passes he does play. And that was a great example. That ball over the top for Kelman, it was a slightly out wide ball, but it beat their man straight over the top and actually gave Kelman something to run onto.
Well, how many times have we said about our strikers giving them the chance, playing that ball in, and then going, do you know what, to the strikers like Kelman, there's your ball, there's your chance, what can you do? What can you do? Something special. And it was one of, I mean...
Live at the Valley, I don't mean we've
live
seen
at the
many
Valley,
better,
there's not many better goals I've seen for a long, long time. And so desperately needed, but the cut in initially was brilliant, and everything about it when you watch it live and when you watch it back on the replay, everything says don't shoot.
Did you see? I don't know, Fevrier at the and he said in his head he was saying don't shoot.
And everything says that. But my God, he caught it, and that sent the Valley into absolute raptures. And it was such perfect timing. It really, as I say, it took advantage of that strong start, which, as I say, we've seen ourselves do quite a few times recently, and tail off. But I was so happy for Kelman himself, because I think he's been such a player this season that seems to, one, have been a victim of needing to get up to speed, was that kind of late signing towards the end of the window, hadn't needed to get up to speed originally, got up to speed, then injured, in and out the squad. I think we've handled him interestingly
I
this
think
year.
probably we haven't played him to his full potential in terms of the style of player that he is, and I think what that goal showed was he is capable of those special finishes. Those sort of, he is a goal scorer. We know it from his time at Leyton Orient. He was I mean, he was top scorer in League One last season, and obviously it's a lower level. But we actually look back at some of the goals he scored for Leyton Orient. They're strikers' goals, and they're the sort of goals where if you give him those opportunities, he will take them.
Well, they're also the sort of goals when you watch back at what he was doing in League One that are very easily scalable into the Championship.
Yeah.
Because I think they're not, as I say, they're not because the players around him are poor. Yes, that will give him more chances, but a lot of the goals you look at, I say goals like this, but also just poacher's instinct.
But that was
as long as you've got the team around you, arguably that should correlate into the league above. And I think we've definitely seen glimpses and moments like that really make me excited for the future.
But that goal was also, it was quite although it's like a worldie of a finish, it was quite an instinctive finish, because if you watch it, he does amazingly well to like get inside his man. But then what he does, he doesn't, I'm not sure he even looks up. He knows where the goal is, and that's a sign of a great striker, is he just head down but just knew exactly where to strike the ball. And obviously whipped it straight into the side net.
He said when it left his foot, he was pretty sure it was in.
Yeah, he knew.
You do know, to be fair. Yeah. And as I say, I mean, it sent everything into raptures. And to be fair, once the goal went in, I think so many times we have felt guilty of really ultra dropping deep and just completely dropping off the game. I think we noticeably dropped a little bit, but I thought in that first half we didn't react in the same way we always do. Now, I think some of that was a poor whole performance that wasn't really pushing back on us, especially knowing the history we have towards kind of going ahead. And
well, also you got Gelhardt in that side who's scored a lot of goals, so I thought he was going to be a real threat, but he turned out to be one of their sort of weaker players in the end. But you're right, they had times where they had quite a bit of the ball, but they didn't really ever threaten us massively.
And it seemed like, I mean, going into kind of the end of the first half, it didn't seem like we were going to give too much away. We gave away so many recently. We felt like maybe a bit of a sloppy giveaway towards things, and I think it was Cody maybe who lost the ball in the midfield. They hit a counter, came back to Gelhardt in the end. Snapshot, probably should have done better, probably should have got it on target, but didn't. That seemed like a bit of a warning sign. And then it feels like, okay, we're going to go in 1-0. We can really kind of rally the troops together. Final push for this second half.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, one that felt like it came out of absolutely nowhere. A really silly mistake from Clark to, in my opinion, to give away the corner in the first place. Seemed really unnecessary to give away the corner. It felt bizarre in the stadium and watching it back, because I think even when you watch it back, ball comes across. I mean, the first bit to talk about, Kaminsky goes down under...
I didn't notice that at the time, and that probably explains why the referee probably missed it as well, because it was quite a subtle shirt pull, but when you watch it back, you can see he's got a good hold of the shirt, but Kaminsky makes quite a meal of it, I think.
It's 100% a free kick.
Yeah.
I think when you look at it, it's 100%. He has his full shirt, but Kaminsky, you're right, makes a meal of it, and the way he goes down, as soon as it's not given, he's in trouble. Because the ball comes over, and actually, he'd be, if he hadn't have gone down, he's exactly where...
He'd just puck it out of the sky.
It literally is exactly where he's gone. And it's a very, very strange moment when that ball goes back across. It's that horrible moment. It's cleared. He looks over to the ref, and it just felt you knew it was coming.
Yeah, he looked down at his watch, didn't he? Because it was a goal line technology sort of thing, like to check it had gone over the line. But I think goalkeepers are so used to being given the foul now. 9 times out of 10, the referee, if there's any contact with the keeper, they give a foul. So what I think in Kaminsky's head, he's probably like, yeah, it's definitely, I'm getting this as a foul.
And I don't know if I completely criticise Kaminsky for it, because if he's given it because of that, you'd go, yeah, well played, playing the game well.
Yeah.
It's a weird goal, isn't it? It's a really strange goal. And they run off celebrating, and I have to admit, he's a player I've never been a lover of, but my hatred for Ollie McBurney in that moment. I don't know what someone had done to him. But he was the most fired up person I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and my hatred for him burnt through everything I've ever felt.
I think he's a sort of player that thrives off that sort of... You know, you got like McLean similar, isn't he, for Wrexham? There's a few players that actually play that sort of villain role, and they quite like whipping the crowd up.
Normally you've been given a lot of stick when you react like that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he had been particularly.
No, but maybe he thrives. That's what I mean. Some players thrive off the sort of energy from the crowd, so it probably made him really want to get a goal. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Do you not feel, though, in that moment, though, it's also quite risky? Because I always look when a player does that, it fires up the crowd.
Yeah, it does.
And players watching that, seeing him do that to your kind of home fans, if I'm a player, I'm thinking, do you know what? Let's go for this,
well,
boys.
ultimately it did backfire because, like you said, he was getting hammered by the fans every time he got the ball, and actually, like, lining up the home fans probably not the brightest idea. But one thing I will say is, when that goal went in, I sort of thought, oh no, here we go, because you go in at half time, all of a sudden it changes the team talk. You're now on edge again because all we need is a point. But if 1-1 is so tight, isn't it? It's like all we had to do is concede one, and then it's problematic. And what was another thing with that goal was it felt like it was massively against the run of play. So it was a bit of one of those sucker punch sort of goals where it deflated the crowd a bit, didn't it? There was sort of
deflated
that
the crowd, and I can imagine the half-time team talk could easily have deflated the players. Yeah. You've put everything into it. You've done, arguably on paper, everything right in a game, and just a very odd, silly moment, a bit of a lapse, has put you in there. But second half comes around, I think that is exactly what happened at the first bit. I thought Hull, for a good probably 10 to 15 minute period, really pushed on the game, and it felt like, okay, we
started dropping back.
Yeah, we dropped deeper. It seemed like we were battening up the hatches a little bit. I feel like we were dealing with them quite well, and even in a time where they were pushing, putting pressure on us, we stayed strong.
I think Gelhardt had a sort of half chance where it sort of fell to him, and he kind of sliced the volley, didn't he? But you're right, like, even when they were sort of getting a bit of a grip on the game and pushing against us, we still held pretty firm, and we didn't really let them create much at all.
And I feel like even though they had that pressure, we were still finding enough of little spells in there to kind of break up and at least not let them get completely and utterly on top of us. I think something, and if we are looking at a trait that this team have had throughout the season, I think one trait we've really got to look to try and get on top of is, when we are going to batten up the hatches, when we are going to go a little bit more defensive, still holding the ball a bit better. I think we have such a default of clearing it long, and we have a real struggle to sometimes just take possession, take the sting out of a game, and we do have that habit of just letting it
give the ball away quite silly
at times. It's attack versus defence, isn't it?
Yeah, but also that's where the hopefully the summer, where we can bring in some more midfielders who can actually get their foot on the ball and hold the ball for a little bit more. Because, again, that's somewhere I think Cody's brought that in a little bit, able to sort of get his foot on the ball. I thought ranking Costello the few times he's been brought in is a bit better at holding the ball. But we really need to look at a few of those ilk of sort of midfielders where they can get hold of it, play a simple pass, keep the ball for a while, because that just gives you that opportunity to sort of get a foothold back in the game.
I think one of the best examples of a player like that I've seen this season, and in no way am I saying we're going to get someone of his quality, but definitely the kind of style of player of what he brings, but is Imran Louza for Watford. I think he is the prime example of that player who sits within the midfield and kind of is the orchestrator of it, and kind of can slow down the game, can hold possession in a team, and I don't know, just seem to really take control.
My sort of ideal would be a player with a big frame, big sort of player. I think even Portsmouth brought in that who's Adams?
Ebu Adams.
Yeah, and he ever since they brought him in, he was like that big sort of style player who was able to sort of be quite aggressive but also keep hold of the ball. And I think they're really crucial actually in teams where you're actually missing that sort of element in the middle of the park. So yeah, that probably did sort of explain why Hull were able to sort of push on and actually pin us back a little bit in that second half, because that's a problem we've had all season. But then obviously absorb the pressure, and then all you got to do is give the ball to Fevrier and let him do his thing, because man of the match, to be fair.
Stunning performance, and he's one we're going to go on to later in a little bit more detail, but picks up the ball. I think the ball was cleared up to him, takes it down, and he felt like a player today that his dribbles, his runs were pretty successful. He was causing problems, but what maybe my concern over him, especially over time, has been that final product. He dances past, I want to say Egan, pushes on one more, lets rip, and sends the Valley once again into raptures. I don't know what you thought about the keeping, and the more I look back on it, it's a very strange goal, because the keeper kind of goes down to his knees, and I think he struck the ball really well, and I think the keeper is blinded by the players in front of him. But when I do look back, I'm surprised the keeper didn't at least dive for it.
Yeah,
it was a strange
I think you're right. I think he probably was a bit unsighted by the players sat in front of him. There was a couple of defenders that he sort of... Because if you think about it, Febvre's nudged the ball quite quickly and then whipped it round.
But it's not right in the corner.
No, it's not. But he's hit it fairly well. I'd say like the keeper maybe could have done a bit better, but I think that the shot came off pretty quick off his foot, and I think you have to get down pretty quick to get to that, even if you're diving for it. And
I think he dives to it and he probably still doesn't get it. I just thought it was a bit strange. It just looks, even on the replays, looks a bit strange. It's just like he's like gone slowly over on his knees and just watched it go by.
But I think the timing of that goal as well, and again, like the irony is that we've scored 2 goals that are of top quality in that game. But the amount of times this season where we've created chances where they've been clear-cut chances, where the finish has been half as difficult as the ones we've scored. And if we could have just been a bit more clinical in those games, all of a sudden you're looking higher up the league because those goal conversion ratios are going much higher. So it's nice to score some worldy goals, and as a fan at the game, it's always epic because the celebrations are always that bit better actually. But it is ironic that we've scored 2 absolute brilliant goals.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. The goal, the timing.
Yeah.
It felt like probably the 70 to 75th minute is where we'd really drop into our shape.
We only needed the draw as well. So all of a sudden you go 2-1 up, you can actually afford to concede.
Yeah, and we can. And I think but I think if we hadn't have scored, we would have still dropped deep.
Yeah.
And then it only takes a moment, a lapse of concentration, a corner, a moment of sheer magic from one of their players, and the game comes away from us. Whereas that goal
all
going
the pressure,
in,
didn't it? Yeah.
And to be fair, it was a game then from there, whole huffed and puffed. I think probably in the same way we do sometimes, not very effectively. I think they had one shot from the corner of the box, which Kaminsky quite comfortably took down.
Yeah.
I think there was another one, and Kaminsky had, I still haven't seen it on any replays, but a very odd punch at one point that seemed to go over, but I don't think, probably looked worse at the ground than maybe it was.
Yeah, I think to be fair, like, of all the shots that Kaminsky had to deal with, he did pretty well. Like, there wasn't anything really of massive note. Obviously, the goal we've gone over, but apart from that, like, he was solid. To be fair,
solid.
Yeah.
I still think there's questions over his distribution sometimes, but it's just never going to be his strong suit on that, so we just have to accept it as a kind of negative of what he has. But the game goes on. I mean, I think what Charlton have done to me over so many years, even in the 93rd, 94th minute, we were there with our brother who's an Arsenal fan, and he was saying, it's done. I kept looking at him saying, it's not yet. Shut up, it's not yet. This is Charlton. But it was, and I think it's only the fear of what we can produce sometimes. But that final whistle going, I mean, how big of a moment that was, and we've hit the nail. I think we've hit the nail on the head as to what it means for the club, but it was just such a point of relief, and you could see it. Players, staff, everything. I mean, before that, we did also, and I think maybe overlooking this, but I think one of the last chances of the game, Febvre's never-ending run with the keeper who'd gone up for the corner.
And the video of Jones running down the touchline onto the pitch.
He's about 5 yards on the pitch. I mean, there's a temptation for him to play Jones in, and Jones to whack it top corner.
When I watched that Febvre chance back, though, actually, I know like he's running on goal, and really your first thought of is just to tuck it away. But he could have squared it easily as well to TC or Dykes.
Dykes, or he could have played TC over the top, and TC has more than enough pace to grow. Look, it didn't matter in the end. I kind of get why he's done it. He's sprinted, bust his gut that distance. He looked like he'd run out of pace as well, and then he just got that little knock past and just like sped up.
He did well to even just beat that man who was coming in to tackle him. So we didn't care at the end. That was literally last kick of the game.
It would have been lovely because it would have just a little bit earlier just settled the game. Even though I think the game was probably already settled, but it just would have felt good, wouldn't it? Just to kind of rubber stamp it, but it was rubber stamp not long after.
The relief when that whistle went, it was just all of a sudden every little bit of stress that we've been building up for these last few games just lifted.
There was one player who summed it up at the end, and it was Doherty just screaming at the fans. You could tell that was pretty much probably what every player there was feeling. And to be honest, the final whistle went, and I celebrated, but it was just almost like relief.
Yeah.
I didn't go absolutely crazy. I just kind of had my head in my hands and just was like, we've finally done it.
I took a little video. We'll put it up, actually. the video of when the whistle went, and actually you can hear the crowd like sort of, and you can see the players, like you said, Doherty screaming. But as fans, we feel that stress, but the players must feel it even more so, because actually they're the ones that can get the job done. And when that whistle went, they must have just been so delighted, because to do it at home at the Valley with a win is perfect.
Well, I think it's a squad who, for all of our questions, look, realistically, they do put absolutely everything in for the club, and they are a real passionate bunch. I don't think Nathan Jones has players at the club who aren't.
No.
And there have been so many opportunities to do it, and it must, as I say, that frustration does build, that pressure does build, and it does. A moment like that is just kind of releasing it, and just a lovely moment.
It was perfect.
I thought the fact you had the kind of end of season player awards, every single one of which I agreed with.
It's good to see Ibby Fuller getting the Young Player of the Year. I think he's been a real bright sort of spark in terms of like talent coming through, and I think he's one to watch for the next few seasons. He's going to be really actually exciting to watch.
Lloyd Jones, no brainer. I don't think.
Now, isn't it, as well?
The kind of players' player, fans' player of the year. Sonny Carey, I think, look, for all of his negatives, maybe second half of the season he has tailed off. For what he's brought to us this season, he's been an integral part of us picking up a lot of these vital points. And you look back to like the West Brom game, I think it was, that he got the winner in that, and so many occasions throughout the season. TC, I thought, was an interesting one. I think does him no harm in, for someone who we talk about with confidence. Look, he is a very, very
hot and
cold, and somewhat controversial one to talk about within the club, because I think I understand all sides of the argument and say I probably sit in there more. I'm not sure on him in the longer term future, but I think it was still good. I think it does no harm for him.
I think him getting fair play. I think it would probably be he was one of the brightest sparks when we're looking at attacking players for us this season. We haven't had much in terms of the wings.
It's been a low bar, hasn't it?
So I think that's probably mainly it, is that actually he was a good outlet for us throughout the season, and he did have moments in the season where he was really, really good, actually.
Well, I think we say how much we miss him when he's not in the squad. I just think going forward, he's either got to step his game up, or we've got to get a similar style, more consistent version of a TC out there, which isn't easy to get, because pacey, consistent players are
expensive
difficult. And expensive. So, Nathan Jones' speech at the end.
Yeah, I think he summed it up really well, to be fair, and I think he's always honest as well. Like the way that he speaks, it will be from the heart. Like, and you can tell it means so much to him, and he does love the club. That's one thing I love about him as our manager, is that he bleeds Charlton. Like you can tell, like, and it means a lot to him. And I know he does often talk about how he sleeps at the training ground and like all this stuff, but
he even said in his speech he's an absolute nutter.
And he knows he is. Like, but we know he is too, and we accept it because we know everything he does is for the good of Charlton. And he loves the club, and actually that it goes a long way, because you get managers come into clubs who don't really give a toss, and like they're there for the pay packet, and if it doesn't go so well, they'll get their payout and move on. But he is literally in there for the long run, and that's what the owners are looking at as well. Is actually he's building. He talks stages all the time, doesn't he? And that's what he's doing. He's building, and he's done it at Luton, and there's no reason why he can't do it at Charlton if he can get it right.
And do you know what I took from that kind of when he broke it all down? I think in the moment throughout a season, it's so easy to get so frustrated over things. But I thought everything in that kind of end of season speech, whatever you want to call it, it all made such sense. Yeah. And actually, when you look back on it, you do realise how throughout a season, emotions get the better, people get frustrated, all of these bits and pieces. But as I say, one we're going to go into a little bit more later, but what he has done and how he has transformed the club in not just the results on the pitch, it is a culture within the club. It's a club that now, it wasn't that long ago we were relatively the laughing stock of most kind of, whether it's your friends group chats or whatever. And I can say categorically, for the first time in a long time, and I think Nathan Jones is a huge part of it, we've got a club to be extremely proud of. We've got owners to be proud of, a manager, a team, everything there that kind of brings a bright future of a team that have been so stuck in the doldrums for so many years. And even in times of, I mean, you look at it under Bow, for example, when we went up, it never still felt that positive when we went up. It felt like we were still not really on board with the board, and there was so many problems.
I think
behind
you're
the
right.
scenes.
There's like more of a synergy now. Like everyone's pulling in the same direction, and that goes from the staff all the way to the fans, to management, and all that stuff. So he's brought a unity, and he's brought passion as well, which the passion goes a long way, because if you see that and that goes for Jones and the players as well, actually, because he's in charge of obviously bringing most of the players in, and he picks players that have that passion, that raw sort of desire to get results. So yeah, we can only actually just say hats off to him. He's done a brilliant job once again this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, let's move into player performances. To be honest, it's one. As much as I'm sure there was better performances in there, maybe slightly off performances, I don't want to talk about any negatives in regards to it.
I don't think you can.
No, I think it was lovely to see with some performances, say like Harvey Nibbs, I thought put his all into it.
Yeah.
Definitely, as say, some rustiness in there. I thought players like Sonny Carey, as say, had a lot more freedom in there and definitely looked good. And someone who we're not going to put in the good performance in regards to kind of really highlighting, but someone who, for all the criticism and everything we've given, I thought Macaulay Gillespie as well.
He did
really
well,
had a
solid,
had a really solid performance. Still frustrated me with his cross-field balls sometimes. He just hooks up. But
to be fair, that might be our last time we see him at the Valley.
Yep.
To be fair,
and if so, thank you for everything you've done and what a player for us. I mean, as I say, I think the frustrations for him don't come from any malice. They come from what clearly feels like maybe he is above his level. But as I say, for everything he's brought to the club. And I thought if that is his final game, a brilliant way to go out on
also, he's the reason we're there, really. If he hadn't scored that goal at Wembley, who knows where we'd be now. So,
but kind of A1 performances I think we can look at. I think one to start with, central midfield, a player who, once again, as I say, we've already discussed a little bit here, got an assist today, but is Connor Cody. I thought showed every bit of his experience today. Had a few shaky moments. He fell over, I think, for both of Gelhard's chances. Had a slip and gave away the ball there. But I thought overall in the whole game, I just thought brilliant.
I think he just showed his quality. And it's funny because when he was announced as coming to us at the time, which was in around January time, wasn't it, in the window, I think, people almost scoffed at it a little bit and were like, "Oh, why the hell are we bringing him in?" sort of thing. Like he's past it, all this stuff. And you had Wrexham fans saying, "Oh, he's a slug. Like that's why we can't play him." All this stuff. Actually, he's proven to be really important, and I think his leadership qualities, his quality in terms of his actually ability just to get the ball down and sort of calm things down. Like you saw it, we're going through a really tricky patch when he came in, where we were losing regularly. All of a sudden, he came in and sort of calmed it all down. Like we say it before, like you see him talking to the players, like he's got that experience to really sort of. And I can imagine as a pro, you listen to him when he talks. Like he's got a lot of experience.
Oh, his experience of his days of Premier League, England, like everything there can bring just such an incredible. As I say, if that's the development of players there. As you say as well, the fact that you have a respect, like you've got to look at it with any. I think whenever you get an England international within like the dressing room or whatever,
you got to listen. Haven't you?
Yeah, you don't scoff at what they're saying. Like you do listen to it, but also as well, I think someone that Nathan Jones got to take a hell of a lot of credit for as well. Because I think when you look at some of the criticisms that have come from Wrexham fans, etc., if Connor Cody had come in and played as one of our centre backs this season, maybe we would have felt similar ways. Maybe he wouldn't have brought as much to the game. I think what he's brought by dropping into that kind of holding central midfield role is something that, by all accounts, I think he had within his Wolves days, and it's something that kind of Nathan Jones has revitalised. And whether it's with us next season, where there's a big part of me that hopes he is. I wouldn't mind it. I think there's probably a sticking point regarding wages, and I think that would be a conversation over whether Cody would want to, or if there's another suitor out there who's willing to pay higher wages. But I reckon whoever takes him on, that central midfield role might be where they're looking to put him.
And actually, as an older sort of player, that defensive midfield, although you have to, if you've got someone alongside you like a Doherty or a Coventry who can do the hard running, you are then able to sort of get your foot on the ball and actually not necessarily have to bust a gut every 5 minutes. You can kind of be that sort of playmaker in the sort of deep pocket role. So, and that's where we played him. And like you said, Jones has to take a lot of credit because people raised their eyebrows when they saw him coming in the midfield role.
I couldn't believe it.
It's really paid off, though. Yeah. It has really paid off. And
I think it's been one of the biggest turning points of the kind of second half of the season.
Yeah.
And there's not been huge amounts of positives within our second half of the season. But I think kind of players like that, your Lyndon Dykes especially as well, albeit tailed off at the end, I think there's been some real vital kind of just tweaks and changes.
Well, it's also they came in at a pivotal stage of the season where we were on a big decline, and they managed to sort of get a grip of things and turn stuff around. So a lot of credit's got to go to Cody, but especially on that game against Hull as well. He was pretty pivotal in that game as well. So, yeah.
No, definitely. I think another one really easy to move on to, one that we have been a little bit critical of performances recently throughout the season. I think, once again, that up-down, difficult. It's been a really difficult season for him, but Charlie Kelman, take a bow. That finish was stunning. As I say, it just felt he was so on it. Especially when he was getting that kind of run of the mill at the beginning of the game. As I say, beforehand, he kind of sent that warning sign of that little quick burst of pace past the player. And the goal, so vital and will go down so memorable in kind of Charlton's recent times. But for me, it's more the excitement of what we potentially have in the future with him.
And he's really hungry to sort of push on as well. Like, you can tell he's been disappointed with sort of the way the season's gone for him, because when he signed, it was obviously for like $3 million, wasn't it? Fairly big money for us. Like, we don't spend that sort of money regularly at all. So we've sort of invested heavily in him. And actually, as a fan, when he first came in, we were a little bit like, oh, he's taken a bit of time to hit the ground. He went for a little bit of a purple patch, and then we were like, oh, okay, this is the player we've signed. Like, this is what we expected. Then he got injured, and then he's sort of been, like you said, in and out a little bit, not really had a strong run of games. But those moments where he, like what he showed against Hull, that goal, is just a little glimpse of like what he's capable of.
And we've seen that more than once this season. We've seen great instinctive
the
finishes.
Birmingham goal.
Yeah, we've seen some really good moments that are more than enough there. And I think what we probably have learnt this season is we have got to find a way to play to his strengths, play a system that works with him, the players around him that work with him. Because I think this season has also been about, one, a step up to the Championship from League One, and also building off that League One season, which I think, when you look at his time in England, that's kind of his only season of kind of happiness, because I don't think there was great happiness of his time at QPR. No. It seemed like a bit of a...
Their fans were dicks to him.
Yeah, and I think there's been a bit of a kind of... I think that was quite a tough period, and I think that Leyton Orient kind of really sparked him up. But you can tell, as I say, he's kind of growing in confidence, and the more he talks, the more I think he seems really happy at Charlton.
Oh, no, the way he talks about the fans and stuff, like, you can tell he's really enjoying his time here. What he needs to do is really push on next season, and we need to, like you said, play him in the right way. There's been a few games this season where we've tried lumping the ball up to him, and I've just felt sorry for him, because I've seen him going up for headers. That's not the way to use him. He needs to be playing in the channels, running against their defence, and then when we do that, we've seen how effective he can be. So let's just hope next season, with a better squad, we can start playing him in the right way and actually seeing him just become a regular goal scorer. Because goals, let's be honest, goals from strikers this season have been few and far between.
And it's not great, but he's got 7 goals this season, I think it is. And when you look at that, for the season he's had the breaks in and out,
not bad.
It's not awful.
Not bad.
It's not awful. And I think if you can, if you can build a kind of season around him being a pretty good focal point, I think it could be really exciting to see what he brings. So definitely a great performance. And I think to not finish your season, because we've got one more game to go, but pretty much kind of finish season is such a vital one.
It will give him hunger to really push on over the summer and actually start the season next season in a really strong fashion. Yep. And let's hope that happens, because he's got the ability. We know that.
Yep. And I think, save the best for last, a player who I don't think will be there next season. I'm not sure he would be the right player next season particularly. But what a performance to
sign off.
One, show that a lone player doesn't necessarily mean to be a negative, because I think one of the things you can think towards the end of the season is a lone player doesn't put in their all. For me, a standout, easy man of the match performance, Fevrier, a player who I don't think I was too harsh on last week, but I did feel a bit maybe looking at how his performance was today. Look, I still feel to my core he is currently a League One player in a consistent over a season, but he clearly has got a talent in there. I think was part of a West Ham academy. You can see there's definitely moments, and I think what the difference was today is there was moment after moment after moment. You've got the goal. I thought him many times. I thought his tracking back and his defensive game was just sensational today. I thought his want and ability to kind of push down the push down the wings was incredible. And the goal was sensational, but there was one moment that brought one of the biggest smiles to my face, and it's when right in the last minutes he picked up the ball. And he must have dribbled past like 4 or 5 players, held the ball, did little jinks in, little bit of skill, and just picked the ball off to, I think it was either Carey. I don't think it was Carey at that point, but whoever was in the centre mid. And it was just, it summed up his game.
He
Everything was going for him.
I think with him, he's technically very gifted, and we have to remember as well, like he's still young. I think 23, maybe 24. So he's got like a lot of games ahead of him in terms of his career. I think you're right. He's quite raw still. Like the way he plays is very sort of. He's direct, which is what we like to see as fans, like players that run at people. His crossing and stuff like that's not the best at the moment. But we knew when he came in, he was a lone player, and he was there really to give us that option because we were really light on the sort of players that were doing that at the time. And one thing he has done, he's given 110% every game he's come on. He's been impactful off the bench, but also the games that he's started in, he's actually been really good.
Question regarding this, and I think this is where it's an interesting one, because I don't see him as a player we would be looking to sign. But I think there is a question mark where I'd maybe accept it as being an option. We've currently got, obviously, over back at Stockport, Tante. And if there was an option in the summer to look at saying, Stockport have Tante, we take Fevrier, whether there's a bit of money involved there as well, I'd assume with that kind of a transfer, it'd be pretty negligible. I think they're pretty similar, maybe Fevrier on a slightly more talented basis. Would you see that as an option that would be definitely left to explore?
I think it depends, because at the moment, obviously, like strikers, it all depends on who goes out in terms of the attacking players we've got, because Lieburn, I've got a big question mark over whether we keep him in.
I think the way we've used him at the end of the season
Addicks
as well.
is going. You've got Godden, who's badly injury prone now and getting older. All of a sudden, we're quite light.
But do you want Tante?
Well, I don't know, but this is the thing. When we signed him, I think he was brought in as a slight sort of, I say project. It's difficult because he's not as young as you'd think. I think he's like 26, something like that, 27.
I don't think Tanto's the right signing. I think everything that was a concern with him at Stockport, which was his consistency, and I think he brings some. What Tanto brings is some incredibly athletic and just some traits that are extremely good, but they have to be backed up. When you go up to the Championship level, I think at League One you can get away with it, and I think perfect examples of that are players like Corey Blackett-Taylor. They do it at League One level, they go up into the Championship, they maybe show glimpses of it there, but in the long run the consistency will always bring them back down a level. I see with Tanto that being the case. I think Tanto's level is League One. Over the course of the season, I think I saw that, and I think the only time we felt desperate enough to really want him to kind of come in and succeed was when it was more his style of player and what his attributes bring than the quality of what was on offer. And I think it's sometimes what we do with TC. I think we want that quick winger who's going to make the difference, and I think on their days they can, but can they consistently?
The only thing I will say is, though, the reason he was signed would have been because they sort of, whoever's obviously sort of earmarked him will have thought he's capable of playing at that level, and that actually there's the potential there that maybe he could be moulded into a sort of player. But
do you sign a player sometimes and accept you got it wrong?
Maybe, yeah, maybe, and I think the loan maybe indicates that, and the same with Apter, to be fair. And Apter's maybe a bit rawer and younger, and actually maybe somebody that you could see moulded into a better style of player in the future.
Apter's definitely got more of a future, and I think a much clearer development path, because he's gone out and not really done. Like, from what I've heard from Bolton fans, I saw an article the other day that was urging Bolton not to sign him full time.
Yeah, but again, like his age does give him a bit of leeway in terms of like even if he goes down a level, he's still going to take a bit of time to sort of get up to speed.
I feel more positive about Apter than I do like a Tanto, but
that'll be an interesting one to see how it unfolds, because he obviously Fevrier has made an impact, and actually I'd say he isn't. If Charlton ended up signing him, I don't think fans would be unhappy about it, and especially if he was put in as like an impact sort of player, where he may be not a starter, but he could come off the bench and be an impact in terms of a dangerous sort of tricky player that has proven he can play at that level.
And the fact you can put him in that wing-back position, so like kind of the utility of him as well, that you can play him. I think there's something about, and I think something we've missed this season is having a real lack of that pacey, tricky, stocky, whatever it is, that kind of player that I think kind of TC drops into as well, that kind of explosive, make something out of nothing. I think we don't have enough of them in the squad.
They'll
and actually
be on
sometimes
the list.
Having some lower quality even in there, and someone who at the age of 23 could mould into a better player.
That ilk of player is definitely on the list of players we need to bring in over the summer. So
I think as long as we weren't signing him as a full-time, I just think it opens. I wonder if that is an option that is explored in the summer in any way.
We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, time will tell.
It's an interesting one.
But I think that's it when it comes to kind of the good performances of the game. A game that we'll say will live long in my memory. I hope you had a nice coach journey home, Ollie McBurney. Sick of the sight here. But yeah, no, it was, as I say, brilliant game and just a brilliant way to kind of sign off what feels like a sign off for the season, even though we've got one more to go.
But that's how nice is that we've got another one left to just no pressure at all. Let's see what we can do before we obviously go off for the summer and obviously look at an interesting window. But the day couldn't have gone any better as a fan.
Yeah, and I think there's a final one in there, and I think it's one we've already probably covered most of the bits we want to cover towards him. But I think there's one other kind of positive, and I think this doesn't just come into this game, albeit I think he got it tactically incredibly right. But is Nathan Jones. I think he has to have a special mention here. We put him in the negative recently. I think he needs one little final positive on there. As I say, I think he got the game right. It seemed like he really galvanised the players in this game. But also over the time he has been at Charlton as well, for many of the reasons we kind of discussed earlier. But I thought one that I kind of, when you look back on and you look into it, the February he took over, we'd just gone into his first game losing against Reading. We were 19th in League One, 2 points above the drop. At that point, I think we were winless in 12, I think it was. We then go on to 13 games unbeaten, keeping us clear of relegation. We go into his next season, and to be honest, I think it started well and then really dropped off a cliff at a time where, as I say, I was questioning. I think you were actually quite pro at that point, but had kind of definitely was shaking a little bit.
Yeah.
And then gave us that second half of the season. Incredible. A season that saw 20 clean sheets, a playoff campaign that was so incredibly memorable. Yeah. I think a rare one that will go down in history is a playoff campaign that of 3 clean sheets. Yeah. I can't imagine there's many of them. And then this season where we've gone in for everything that's happened there, the incredible start, but a season where we started with, if not the lowest on wage bill side of things in the league. I think team-wise, definitely down there. Bookies' favourites and pretty much everyone's predictions favourites to go down. Yeah. And bring us a season that, as I say, has had its ups, has had its downs.
It's been enjoyable, though, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been some incredible moments.
There's been moments like the Ipswich game. You've got other games. I was there for the West Brom game at the Valley where we scored last minute. And these are teams we're coming up against who have got a bloody vast superior budgets. They're teams that were playing in the Premier League like the year before.
Albeit we got absolutely smashed by them away, that close to getting us our Millwall win. We desperately
want, I was at that one as well. But there's been
the Blackburn at home game. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah. So we've had some real highlights, and even the times where we've been a bit negative towards the style of play, and we've ground some pretty, we drew with Southampton, to be fair, away from home.
And I think I'd love to see the stats on this, and I don't know what it would be, but I'd say we're probably one of the, as a team to have gone up their first season. The clean sheets, I reckon, would be up there as one of the best.
We were at 13 about a few weeks ago, so we might 13, 14 maybe towards the back end.
And I think that's an incredibly impressive stat to have. And I think probably when you look at it, the season is summed up by saying we've probably got a top 10 defence in the league, maybe even higher than that. But we've got an attack that sits very low down.
That's why we ended up where we were in the end. If we had had a more attacking sort of threatening midfield and striking options, then we would have been comfortably in the middle of the table.
And that's where I think we've got such an exciting kind of base to springboard off, and something that we saw, as I say, if we're looking back on history, we saw it with Nathan Jones' first season. He was with us into the second season. Who knows? We've got 8. It's down to 8 on the playoffs next year, so
you never know. Obviously, we've got to sort of be realistic and sort of know that it is still a project. We're aware that it takes probably 2 to 3 seasons to properly build a good style of championship team. But we're only going to improve now, and I think the ownership is serious. They do want to see us move forwards, and ultimately their goal is to get us in the Prem. That's where the money is. So in order to do that, we need to invest, and that's where I'm really excited to see what we can do. Plus, I am really impressed with some of the players that have been brought in. We've looked at the likes of Sishenje, who's a real talent, looking that way. We've brought in Carey, who was a brilliant signing on a free. There's been some shrewd business, and if we can continue that pathway and add in some quality with a bit more money, maybe in a really quality midfielder or that sort of thing, it will start to change things. We will.
But I do wonder with the Sishenje signing whether we've also accepted a slightly different transfer approach, which I think having consolidation in the Championship opens up a different market you can go for as well, because I think it does open up to that European market. Players coming from overseas won't see Charlton as the team who just about stayed up, and I think you even saw it with like teams like Oxford this year. Even though they went down, they got that centre mid in for I think 3 or 4 million, who I think overall has had a pretty good season, and I think it does definitely open doors to different types of sides.
Well, also like proven Championship level players or ex-Premier League players are going to cost you a lot of money, and actually, do we have that budget at this moment in time? Who knows? We're going to find out really actually what they're willing to invest over the summer. You've also got the financial fair play and all that stuff, so they have to be a bit careful the way they do all this stuff. But
it seems like we've got sensible owners.
Yeah, they're not going to go. They're not going to go wild, but it's going to hopefully be done in a sensible way where we can strengthen. So, yeah.
Shall we quickly look ahead to our next game? I think there's...
Yeah, I don't really care what happens.
I have to admit, it's one that with very little care, and it'll be a very quick segment. But Swansea away, Saturday, final game of the season, 12:30 kickoff as they all are.
Yeah. Nice one for the fans, to be fair.
I mean, 11th versus 19th. No meaning to it. You've got an absolutely on fire Vipotnik who, I think if it had have been going into this game with something on the line, would have put the fear of God into me. I would have hoped there was some kind of sickness bug going around the camp. But
I mean, I
hope with it, the one thing I hope we do, I'd like to see maybe a bit of a kind of test of. Albeit, it's so difficult because I think you need 4 or 5 games to really test out other systems. But maybe give your Ibby Fullers, maybe Keenan Goff in the lineup. Just give a few chances to players who have also had important impacts on the season. Give them that kind of experience of a championship game. Maybe try something different out. I mean, I think the highest we can go up to
18th.
Yeah, 18th, 17th, 18th.
Be pretty happy with 18th. Well, I'm happy with anything above relegation. So
yeah, I think it's 17th because we can go above Stoke depending on results, which is quite incredible when you think about it.
We really said, like, at the beginning of the season, all we cared about was staying out of the relegation zone and just consolidating this year, and we've done that. So wherever we end up is a bonus.
Well, beginning of the season, I think we both said about 18th, 19th. It'll be interesting because we'll look back on it at some point. But as I say, Swansea.
No, it is what it is. Yeah. Like, it's good. Like I say, a good away.
It'll be an enjoyable watch, I'm sure. It'll be, let's say,
not having kick back and watch it without any pressure. Which is,
I have to admit, final day of the season, I'm more excited. Probably looking at the top end of the table. Middlesbrough. Yeah. Well, pretty much now. Yeah, Middlesbrough down to Middlesbrough, Millwall, Ipswich.
Millwall could be out the running by that end game because I think Ipswich.
I think Ipswich. I don't think anyone can. Well, it pretty much is Ipswich win. They've got it in essence, so it could be once again because you've got a 17.
The battle for the 6th place is interesting. There's 3 teams that could get that as well. So
Wrexham, Hull, Derby.
Hull will be kicking themselves massively now because Wrexham lost and Derby did win, but Hull would have been in the driving seat if they had got anything.
I have to admit, out of those 3, I'd be looking at Derby as probably the one I'd quite like to.
Yeah, I don't want Wrexham really.
Don't want Wrexham. Don't want Hull because Ollie McBurney plays them. So yeah. Don't know if you realise he annoyed me.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Let's have a look. And, I mean, we're discussing it a little bit there, but let's bring up the moment I think every Charlton fan is waiting for. We'll bring up the league table. Stunning viewing. So, as you'll see, 6 points above Oxford, who can no longer catch us, are relegated. And, as I say, it's been a table we've been waiting for so long. But
sweating over for a good few weeks now, but
joyous.
Yeah. And it's just that relief. We always use that word quite a lot over this one. But
and you know, looking at the table as well, the one thing I will say towards it, we actually, I think one of the questions I've seen, or one of the, not accusations from fans, but I've seen quite a lot is, we've only done it because of the kind of points deductions and this, that, the other. Leicester with their points deduction could still not catch us. Sheffield Wednesday with their point deduction still couldn't catch us.
They're way off.
So we are actually above any points deductions catching us. And I know it has big impacts on their mentalities and stuff, but I think it does really show what a job that is. And especially as well in this season where I think one of the most underrated things as well is the fact we went up with Wrexham and Birmingham, who financially are almost powerhouses. You never would expect to really come up from League One. And I think sit as a relative anomaly. There's not many times you'll come up alongside teams who both were kind of linked for being mid-table to playoff pushing sides. So you've already instantly got... You haven't got that safety blanket of fighting even the teams who you came up with.
Yeah, no, it was a really competitive championship. And actually, that's been shown by the way the league's played out. Because at that top of the table, it's all quite tight. Like, I mean, Norwich were, for example, playing for a playoff spot like yesterday. and that just shows you how quickly the table can change, because they were right down the bottom to start with. So it's been a really competitive league, and actually that's just shown again how well we've done to actually get results against teams that we never thought we probably would have at the start of the season.
No, definitely. Well, there we go. Well, as I say, it's been probably one of my favourite episodes of the season.
Yeah.
Really thank everyone for listening if you have got this far. As always, look, if you do like the videos, please do make sure to like and subscribe. We'll be back next weekend for the final game of the season, where, to be honest, I don't think there's going to be much to go over in the game itself, because it's not one that really, as I say, performances matter too much.
Might be talking about a 5-0 Charlton win.
Might be a 5-0 Charlton loss.
It might be. I don't give a toss.
I think we're going to go over. We've got a few ideas for that final kind of video for the season, in regards to kind of going over signings of the seasons and all those kind of bits and pieces. And we also got one we've been kind of definitely working hard on in regards to kind of an end of season review as well. So definitely got some exciting still things to look forward to on that front. But as for today, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.